The 15th puppy came out completely silent. No cry, no whimper, no struggle for its first breath. Just two golden eyes staring directly at Dr. Michael Rowen with an intensity that made every hair on his arms stand straight up. Those eyes should not have been open. Newborn puppies are born blind. Their eyes remain sealed shut for 10 to 14 days after birth. Every veterinarian knows this. Every breeder knows this. It is one of the most basic facts of canine biology. Yet this puppy was staring at him. Not just looking in his general direction the way a startled animal might. This creature was staring into his eyes with purpose. With recognition. With something that felt terrifyingly close to ancient knowing. In 37 years of practicing veterinary medicine across the mountain towns of Colorado, Dr. Michael Rowen had delivered thousands of puppies. He had witnessed rare births that made medical journals. He had handled difficult births that lasted through entire nights. He had celebrated miraculous births that defied every odds stacked against them. But never once in nearly 4 decades of experience had a newborn creature looked at him like it already knew exactly who he was. Like it had been waiting specifically for him to arrive. His hands stopped moving. His breath caught somewhere deep in his chest and refused to release. The barn fell impossibly quiet around him. Even the March wind howling outside the wooden walls seemed to pause and hold its breath. And then the mother did something that made Dr. Michael Rowen's blood freeze completely solid in his veins. She growled. If this story is already sending chills down your spine, you are exactly where you need to be. This channel is dedicated to the most incredible animal stories ever told. Stories of mystery. Stories of courage. Stories that will make you believe in things you cannot explain. If you want to see how this impossible night unfolds and discover what these 15 puppies truly are, hit that subscribe button right now. Tap the notification bell so you never miss a single story. Drop a comment below telling me what you think these puppies might be. And smash that like button to help more animal lovers find this channel. Now let us continue with what happened next in that freezing Colorado barn. The growl that came from Bella's throat was not directed at Dr. Rowen. She was not warning him away from her newborn litter. She was not protecting her puppies from the human kneeling beside her. Bella was growling at the barn door behind him. It was a low sound. A guttural vibration that seemed to come from somewhere deeper than her chest. It resonated through the wooden floorboards and traveled up through Dr. Rowen's knees into his spine. It did not sound like any domestic dog he had ever encountered in his entire career. It sounded ancient. It sounded primal. It sounded like something that belonged to the wilderness beyond the tree line. Something that had survived ice ages and outlasted civilizations. Something wild. Dr. Rowen turned slowly toward the barn door. His heart pounded against his ribs like a trapped animal trying to escape. The overhead light flickered once, casting dancing shadows across the hay-covered floor. The March wind screamed against the walls with renewed fury. Nothing was there. The door remained closed. The darkness beyond the frosted windows revealed no shapes. No movement. No explanation for the warning that still rumbled in Bella's throat. But when Dr. Rowen turned back to face the German Shepherd and her impossible litter, he finally noticed what his panicked mind had somehow missed during the chaos of the delivery. The shapes of these 15 newborn bodies were wrong. Their skulls were too narrow. The cranial structure was elongated in a way that no German Shepherd puppy should display. Their muzzles were longer and more refined than the breed standard. Their paws were enormous compared to their tiny bodies. Paws built for covering vast distances across rough mountain terrain. Their ears sat higher on their skulls than any domestic dog he had ever examined. Dr. Rowen had seen these exact physical characteristics only once before in his life. 30 years ago during his residency at Colorado State University, a team from the United States Fish and Wildlife Service had brought in a confiscated litter from an illegal breeding operation hidden deep in the Rocky Mountains. Those animals had possessed the same elongated skulls. The same oversized paws. The same unsettling intelligence burning behind their eyes. Those animals were not dogs. They were wolf hybrids. Dr. Rowen's hands began to tremble as he examined puppy after puppy under the harsh barn light. His trained fingers catalogued every detail. Every abnormality. Every impossible feature that should not exist in a litter born from a German Shepherd living on a quiet rescue farm. The dew claws on their front legs were pronounced and functional. Most domestic dogs have vestigial dew claws that serve no practical purpose. But these dew claws were built for gripping, built for climbing, built for surviving in terrain where household pets would never venture. His throat tightened as the weight of realization settled over him like a suffocating blanket. Bella was not an abandoned pet that Sarah Mitchell had rescued from the roadside 3 years ago. Bella was something else entirely. And someone knew it. Dr. Rowen looked at Sarah standing frozen in the barn doorway. Her face had gone completely white. Her hands gripped the wooden frame so tightly her knuckles had turned pale. She had loved this dog for 3 years. Fed her. Sheltered her. Trusted her completely. She had no idea what she had been living with. Before Dr. Rowen could speak a single word of explanation, his phone buzzed loudly in his coat pocket. The sound cut through the silence like a blade. He pulled out the device with trembling fingers and stared at the screen. One new message from an unknown number. 6 words that changed everything. Do not call anyone. We are watching. Dr. Rowen's eyes shot toward the barn door. The same door Bella had growled at moments earlier. The same door that led into the pitch-black Colorado night. Someone was out there in the darkness. Someone who knew exactly what had just been born in this barn. Someone who had been waiting for this moment for a very long time. And they were watching every single move he made. Dr. Rowen's heart slammed against his ribs, so hard he thought it might crack bone. He read the message again. Then a third time. The words did not change. They burned into his vision like a brand seared into flesh. Do not call anyone. We are watching. His fingers went cold around the phone. The screen light cast harsh shadows across his weathered face. Somewhere outside the barn walls, the March wind howled like a wounded animal. But it was not the wind that made his hands shake. Someone out there in the frozen Colorado darkness knew exactly what was happening inside this barn. Someone had been monitoring this situation. Waiting. Planning. And now they were close enough to watch his every move. But how did they know? How could anyone possibly know about these puppies before he had even finished examining them? Dr. Rowen forced himself to breathe. 37 years of emergency veterinary medicine had taught him to control panic. To think clearly when everything around him was falling apart. To find solutions when there seemed to be none. He needed answers. And he needed them now. Sarah, he said quietly without turning around. His voice was steady despite the terror coursing through his veins. I need you to tell me exactly where you found Bella 3 years ago. Every detail you can remember. Sarah Mitchell stepped forward from the doorway. Her boots crunched softly against the hay-covered floor. Her face remained pale as fresh snow. Her eyes darted between the puppies and the veterinarian she had trusted for 15 years. I already told you, she whispered. Near the national forest boundary. She was wandering alone on the old logging road. Skinny. No collar. I thought someone had abandoned her. Dr. Rowen finally turned to face her. His expression was grave. Serious. The expression of a man who had just discovered something that would change everything. Show me her left ear. Sarah frowned. Confusion flickered across her exhausted features. Her ear? Why would you need to see her? Please, Sarah. Just show me. Something in his tone stopped her questions. She knelt slowly beside Bella. The German shepherd watched her with those intelligent amber eyes. Calm. Patient. Almost knowing. Sarah lifted the thick fur covering Bella's left ear and folded it back gently. Dr. Rowen leaned closer. His breath caught in his throat. There it was. A small tattoo hidden beneath the fur. A series of numbers and letters arranged in a specific pattern. Faded with age but still perfectly legible. He recognized the cataloging system immediately. His stomach dropped like a stone thrown into a bottomless well. That tattoo belonged to the Rocky Mountain Wildlife Research Center, a federal facility located 40 miles north of Denver. A facility that had been shut down 8 years ago after a classified government investigation. A facility his own mentor had directed for 23 years. Dr. Harold Jensen. The man who had taught Michael Rowen everything he knew about veterinary medicine. The man who had attended his graduation. Stood beside him at his wedding. Held his hand at his daughter's funeral when cancer stole her at only 31 years old. Harold Jensen had been more than a mentor. He had been a father figure. A guiding light. the most ethical and principled man Michael Rowen had ever known. Harold Jensen had died of a heart attack 2 years ago. Michael had delivered the eulogy at his funeral. He had wept openly at the graveside. Now staring at the tattoo inside Bella's ear, Michael realized with sickening clarity that he never truly knew his mentor at all. The Rocky Mountain Wildlife Research Center had faced federal accusations of unauthorized crossbreeding experiments. According to official reports, the facility had attempted to strengthen endangered wolf populations by introducing domestic dog genetics into carefully controlled breeding programs. The project was deemed unethical by government oversight committees. The research files were sealed and classified. All remaining animals were ordered to be euthanized. The facility was closed. The staff was scattered. The experiments were supposedly ended forever. But Bella was alive. Bella was standing right here in this barn. She had been living with Sarah Mitchell for 3 years. She had just given birth to 15 puppies that carried impossible genetics. The program had never ended. Someone had lied to the federal government. Someone had hidden animals from the euthanasia orders. Someone had released them into the wild near populated areas where kind-hearted people might find them and take them in. Someone had been running a secret breeding program right under everyone's noses. And Harold Jensen had been at the center of it all. Dr. Rowen's phone buzzed again. Another message from the unknown number. His fingers trembled as he opened it. The puppies are not yours to report. They belong to something bigger than you understand. Walk away, Michael. Everyone stays safe. They knew his first name. They knew where he was. They knew exactly what Bella's puppies represented. And they were threatening him. For 37 years Michael Rowen had followed every rule. He had trusted every institution. He had reported every suspicious case to the proper authorities. He had believed completely that the system he served was honest and good. But standing in that freezing barn surrounded by 15 impossible creatures and the ghost of his mentor's betrayal, he realized the terrible truth that shattered everything he thought he knew. The system had been lying to him all along. Every document was falsified. Every report was manufactured. Every assurance that the animals had been humanely euthanized was nothing but carefully constructed fiction. And Harold Jensen, the man he had loved like a father, had orchestrated the entire deception. But why? Why would a man known for his ethics participate in illegal breeding experiments? Why would he risk his entire reputation to save these animals from government destruction? Why would he release them near populated areas where they could be found by ordinary people? None of it made sense. Unless there was something about these wolves that Harold Jensen believed was worth protecting at any cost. Sarah's voice broke through his spiraling thoughts. Michael, you are scaring me. What is happening? What is wrong with Bella's puppies? He looked at her. This lonely widow who had poured every ounce of love into the animals nobody else wanted. This kind woman who had taken in a starving German shepherd without asking any questions. She had no idea what she had been sheltering for 3 years. She had no idea what kind of danger had just arrived at her doorstep. Sarah, he said slowly, choosing every word with extreme care. I need you to listen to me very carefully. Do not call anyone. Do not tell anyone what happened tonight. Do not post anything on social media. Do not contact any authorities. Her eyes widened with fear. Why? What is going on? Dr. Rowen looked toward the barn door one more time. The darkness beyond the frosted windows seemed thicker somehow. More oppressive. More watchful. Whoever was out there had resources. They had surveillance capabilities. They had known about this birth before it even happened. These were not ordinary criminals. These were people with power. People with connections. People who had been waiting years for this exact moment. Because someone is watching us right now, he whispered. And if we make the wrong move, I am not sure any of us will survive the night. Sarah opened her mouth to respond, but stopped when Bella suddenly raised her head. The German shepherd's ears swiveled toward the barn door. Her amber eyes narrowed. Her muscles tensed beneath her thick coat. And then they all heard it. Footsteps. Crunching slowly through the frozen ground outside. Getting closer. One step. Then another. Then another. Someone was approaching the barn. Dr. Rowen grabbed Sarah's arm and pulled her toward the back corner where shadows gathered thick and dark. His mind raced through possibilities. Through escape routes. through desperate options. But before he could formulate any kind of plan, the barn door began to creak open. The barn door swung open with an agonizing slowness that stretched each second into eternity. Dr. Rowen pressed Sarah deeper into the shadows. His body positioned itself between her and whatever was about to step through that doorway. His heart hammered so loudly, he was certain the intruder could hear it echoing off the wooden walls. Bella remained motionless beside her puppies. Her amber eyes locked onto the widening gap in the doorway. Her growl had stopped, but her muscles remained coiled like springs ready to release. The March wind rushed inside carrying snowflakes and the bitter scent of pine. The overhead light flickered violently. Shadows danced across the hay-covered floor like demons, celebrating the arrival of something terrible. A figure stepped into the barn. Dr. Rowen squinted against the harsh contrast between darkness and light. His eyes struggled to process what he was seeing. His brain prepared itself for confrontation. For violence. For the worst possible outcome. Then the figure spoke. "Grandpa? What is going on? Why are all the lights on at 4 in the morning?" The voice was female. Young. Familiar. Dr. Rowen's legs nearly buckled with relief. Emma Rowen stepped fully into the barn light. She was 34 years old with sharp, intelligent eyes and auburn hair pulled back in a practical ponytail. She wore a heavy winter coat with the Yellowstone National Park emblem stitched onto the shoulder. His granddaughter. His only remaining family since his daughter passed away 3 years ago. But relief quickly transformed into confusion. Emma was supposed to be at Yellowstone. She was stationed there as a wildlife biologist studying wolf migration patterns. She lived over 500 miles away in Wyoming. There was no possible way she could be standing in this barn right now. Unless she had already been traveling to Colorado before any of this happened. "Emma," Dr. Rowen breathed. "What are you doing here? How did you know to come?" Emma's eyes scanned the barn quickly. They moved from her grandfather's pale face to Sarah's terrified expression to Bella's protective stance over her litter. Her trained wildlife biologist gaze catalogued every detail in seconds. "I received a letter 3 days ago," she said slowly. "No return address. No signature. Just coordinates to this location and a date. Today's date." She reached into her coat pocket and produced a folded piece of paper. The handwriting on it was elegant and old-fashioned. The kind of penmanship that belonged to a different generation. Dr. Rowen took the letter with trembling fingers. He unfolded it carefully and read the words written inside. "Dear Miss Rowen, your grandfather will need your expertise very soon. Travel to these coordinates before March 15th. What you find there will change everything you understand about your life's work. Trust no one except family. The wolves are returning. Someone must protect them." There was no signature. No identification. No explanation for how the sender knew Emma's address or her connection to Dr. Rowen. But Michael recognized the handwriting immediately. It belonged to Harold Jensen. His dead mentor had written this letter. A man who had been buried for 2 years had somehow sent correspondence to Emma 3 days ago. The impossible nature of this situation multiplied exponentially with every passing minute. Nothing made sense anymore. Reality itself seemed to be unraveling at the seams. "Grandpa," Emma said firmly, "tell me what is happening. Why do you look like you have seen a ghost?" Dr. Rowen handed her the letter without speaking. Then he gestured toward Bella and her 15 puppies huddled in the hay. "Examine them," he said quietly. "Tell me what you see." Emma approached the litter with practiced caution. Her years of studying wild wolves had taught her to move slowly around protective mothers. She knelt several feet away from Bella and observed the puppies with professional detachment. Her expression shifted within seconds. First came confusion. Then recognition. Then complete and utter disbelief. "These are not dogs," she whispered. "The cranial structure is wrong. The paw size is disproportionate. The ear placement is too high." She looked up at her grandfather with wide eyes. "These are wolf hybrids. But not just any hybrids. This bone structure matches the Mexican gray wolf, a subspecies that has been functionally extinct in the wild for decades." She stood abruptly. Her hands were shaking. "Grandpa, where did this dog come from? Who bred her? How is this possible?" Before Dr. Rowen could answer, his phone buzzed again. Another message from the unknown number. He read it aloud so everyone could hear. You brought your granddaughter. Interesting choice. Now you have 1 hour to decide. Bring the puppies to the coordinates we will send. Or we will come take them ourselves. And we will not ask politely. Emma's expression hardened into steel. Who sent that? Who is threatening you? Dr. Rowen explained everything. The tattoo in Bella's ear. The connection to the Rocky Mountain Wildlife Research Center. Harold Jensen's involvement in the secret breeding program. The threatening messages that had been arriving throughout the night. Emma listened without interrupting. Her scientific mind processed each piece of information systematically, connecting dots, forming hypotheses, building a complete picture from scattered fragments. When he finished speaking, she pulled out her own phone. I have contacts at Fish and Wildlife, she said. Federal agents who owe me favors. I can have a team here within 2 hours. No, Dr. Rowen said sharply. We cannot involve the authorities. We do not know who these people are. We do not know how deep their connections run. They knew about this birth before it happened. They knew my name. They knew this location. They might have people inside the federal agencies. Emma paused. Her thumb hovered over her phone screen. Then what do you suggest we do? Just hand over 15 puppies carrying extinct genetic material to unknown criminals? Of course not. But we need more information before we make any moves. We need to understand what we are truly dealing with. Sarah spoke for the first time in several minutes. Her voice was small and frightened, but determined. There might be something that can help. Both Rowens turned to face her. 3 months ago, I found something strange in my attic, Sarah continued. An old metal box buried under insulation in the corner. It had a lock on it. I never opened it because I did not have the key and I forgot about it. But it had initials carved into the top. She swallowed hard. H.J. Harold Jensen. Dr. Rowen felt the ground shift beneath his feet. Harold had hidden something in Sarah's attic. Something he wanted protected. Something he knew would eventually be discovered when the time was right. The letter to Emma. The release of Bella near Sarah's property. The hidden box in the attic. None of this was coincidence. Harold Jensen had orchestrated everything. He had planned for this night years in advance. He had put pieces into motion that would only come together after his death. But why? What was so important about these wolves that a dying man would construct such an elaborate protection scheme? Show me the box, Dr. Rowen said urgently. Right now. Sarah nodded and moved toward the barn door. But before she could take 3 steps, headlights appeared at the end of her long driveway. 2 vehicles. Moving fast. No sirens. No flashing lights. Just cold white beams cutting through the darkness like predatory eyes. They were not waiting an hour. They were coming now. Emma grabbed her grandfather's arm. Back door. Is there a back door to this barn? Sarah pointed toward a small wooden panel barely visible behind stacked hay bales. It leads to the equipment shed. From there we can reach the tree line. Dr. Rowen looked at Bella. At the 15 puppies that represented something extraordinary. Something worth killing for. We cannot leave them, he said. We cannot carry 15 newborn puppies through the forest in freezing temperatures, Emma countered. They will die from exposure within an hour. The headlights grew closer. The vehicles were less than a quarter mile away now. Bella rose to her feet. Her amber eyes met Dr. Rowen's gaze with startling intensity. Something passed between them. An understanding that transcended species. A communication that needed no words. She picked up one of her puppies gently in her mouth. Then another. She was going to move them herself. The equipment shed has heating lamps, Sarah said quickly. For the baby goats in spring. We can keep the puppies warm there while we figure out our next move. It was their only option. Dr. Rowen grabbed as many puppies as he could safely carry. Emma did the same. Sarah led them toward the hidden door in the back of the barn. Behind them the vehicle skidded to a stop in the gravel driveway. Car doors slammed. Footsteps crunched toward the main barn entrance. Voices shouted commands. And just before Dr. Rowen slipped through the back door into the freezing night, he heard something that stopped his blood cold. A voice he recognized. A voice that should have been silenced by death 2 years ago. A voice that belonged to Harold Jensen. Dr. Rowen froze with his hand pressed against the wooden door frame. That voice. That distinctive baritone with its slight German accent. That measured cadence that turned every sentence into a lecture worth remembering. It was impossible. Completely and utterly impossible. He had attended the funeral. He had watched the casket lowered into the ground. He had thrown a handful of dirt onto the polished wood and wept like a child losing a parent for the second time. Harold Jensen was dead. And yet that voice echoed through the barn behind him with undeniable clarity. Michael. I know you can hear me. Please stop running. There is no need for fear. Not anymore. Emma grabbed her grandfather's arm and pulled hard. We need to move. Now. Whoever that is can wait until we are somewhere safe. But Dr. Rowen could not move. His feet had become rooted to the frozen ground. His mind was splitting in half, trying to reconcile what his ears were hearing with what his memory knew to be true. The dead do not speak. The dead do not return. And yet, Grandpa. Emma's voice was urgent now. Desperate. The puppies are getting cold. Sarah is waiting. We have to go. The sound of his granddaughter's fear finally broke through the paralysis. Whatever supernatural impossibility was unfolding in that barn would have to wait. Right now 15 precious lives depended on him making the right choice. He turned away from the voice and followed Emma into the darkness. The equipment shed was 50 yards away across frozen ground that crunched beneath their hurried footsteps. Sarah had already arrived and was frantically setting up heating lamps in the corner. Orange warmth began to glow against the metal walls. Bella appeared moments later carrying the last of her puppies. She deposited the tiny creature gently beside its siblings and then positioned herself protectively around the entire litter. Her amber eyes watched the door with unwavering vigilance. 15 puppies. All accounted for. All alive. For now. Explain to me how a dead man is walking around outside, Emma demanded. Her scientific mind was struggling to process what they had all heard. Dr. Rowen shook his head slowly. I cannot explain it. I watched him die. I watched him buried. I visited his grave every month for 2 years. Then someone is impersonating him. Using recordings. Something technological. That voice was not a recording. It responded to movement. It knew I was listening. Before they could debate further, the shed door swung open. Dr. Rowen stepped in front of Emma and Sarah. His old body positioned itself as a shield despite having no weapon and no plan. He would die protecting his family if necessary. But the figure that stepped through the doorway was not threatening. He was old. Frail. Wrapped in a heavy wool coat that seemed too large for his diminished frame. His white hair was thinner than Michael remembered. His face was more lined. More weathered by time and hardship. But those eyes. Those sharp, intelligent eyes that had taught Michael everything he knew about medicine and ethics and compassion. Those eyes belonged to Harold Jensen. Hello, Michael, the old man said softly. I am so sorry for the deception. But it was necessary. Everything I did was necessary. Dr. Rowen's voice cracked when he finally spoke. You were dead. I mourned you. For 2 years I grieved for you. Harold stepped closer. His movements were slow and painful. The movements of a man whose body was failing him. The death was staged. A necessary fiction to protect the program. To protect these wolves. To protect you. He looked at the 15 puppies huddled beneath the heating lamps. His eyes filled with tears. They are the last hope, he whispered. The last pure genetic line of the Mexican gray wolf. A subspecies that humanity drove to the edge of extinction through ignorance and cruelty. Emma stepped forward. Her professional curiosity momentarily overriding her shock. The Mexican gray wolf is critically endangered but not extinct. There are breeding programs in Arizona and New Mexico. Harold shook his head. Those programs are contaminated. Decades of poor genetic management have weakened the bloodlines beyond recovery. But I found a solution. A way to preserve pure genetics by hiding them in plain sight. He gestured toward Bella. Wolf-dog hybrids carrying dormant pure wolf genetics. Animals that could live among humans without detection. Animals that could preserve bloodlines until the world was ready to receive them again. But the research center was shut down, Dr. Rowen interjected. The government ordered all animals destroyed. The government ordered the destruction of evidence that would embarrass powerful people, Harold corrected. My research proved that certain hunting policies were directly responsible for pushing the Mexican gray wolf toward extinction. Policies supported by wealthy donors with political connections. His voice hardened with old anger. They wanted my research buried. They wanted the wolves eliminated. They wanted no proof of their crimes against nature. So you faked your death and went underground, Emma concluded. Harold nodded slowly. I released my animals near properties owned by people I had researched for years. Kind people. Compassionate people. People who would take in strays without asking questions. He looked at Sarah with profound gratitude. People like you, Mrs. Mitchell. You saved Bella when I could no longer protect her. You gave her a home. You gave her love. You allowed her to fulfill her purpose. Sarah's eyes were streaming with tears. I never knew. I just thought she was a lost dog who needed help. That is exactly why I chose you. Your kindness required no explanation, no justification. It simply existed. Dr. Rowen's mind was still reeling, but practical concerns were pushing through the emotional chaos. Who are the people in those vehicles? Who has been sending the threatening messages? Harold's expression darkened. Former colleagues who corrupted my mission. Scientists who saw profit where I saw preservation. They want to sell these puppies to wealthy collectors, to private zoos, to anyone willing to pay millions for an extinct subspecies. Then we need to stop them, Emma said firmly. We will. But not through confrontation. Through exposure. Harold reached into his coat and produced a thick manila envelope. This contains everything. Research documents. Genetic analyses. Evidence of government corruption. Proof that the Mexican gray wolf can be saved if the right people take action. He handed the envelope to Emma. You have connections in the scientific community. You have credibility. You can bring this information to people who will use it properly. Emma took the envelope with trembling hands. What about the people outside? They will not simply walk away. Harold smiled for the first time. They already have. When they saw me step out of that vehicle, they understood their leverage had disappeared. They cannot threaten a dead man. They cannot silence someone who has already been erased from existence. He looked at his former student with eyes full of love and regret. I am dying, Michael. For real this time. Cancer. I have perhaps 3 months remaining. I staged my death to protect these wolves. Now I am emerging from hiding to ensure their future before I truly leave this world. Dr. Rowen felt tears streaming down his weathered cheeks. I thought I lost you once. Now I have to lose you again. Harold placed a frail hand on Michael's shoulder. You never lost me. I was always watching. Always proud. Always grateful for the man you became. He turned to look at Bella and her 15 puppies one final time. The wolves are returning, Michael. After decades of persecution and near extinction, they are finally coming home. All I ask is that you help them find their way. Dr. Rowen looked at the tiny creatures huddled together for warmth. 15 impossible puppies carrying the genetic legacy of an entire subspecies. 15 small lives that represented hope for something that humanity had nearly destroyed forever. He thought about his daughter who had died too young. He thought about his mentor who had sacrificed everything. He thought about Sarah who had opened her heart to a stranger. He thought about Emma who would carry this mission forward. And he made his decision. I will protect them, he said quietly. For as long as I live. I will protect them all. Harold Jensen smiled one final time. The smile of a man who had completed his life's work. The smile of a teacher watching his student surpass him. I know you will, Michael. I always knew you would. 6 months later, the first of Bella's puppies was released into a protected wilderness area in New Mexico. Emma's research had led to a revolutionary new wolf conservation program. Sarah's farm became an official sanctuary. Dr. Rowen postponed retirement indefinitely. And somewhere in the mountains of Colorado, the wolves began to sing again. If this story touched your heart and reminded you that compassion can change the world, I need you to do something right now. Hit that subscribe button and join this family of animal lovers. Tap the notification bell so you never miss another incredible story. Drop a comment below telling me what part of this journey moved you the most. And smash that like button so this message of hope can reach more people who need to hear it. Every subscription matters. Every comment helps. Every like spreads the word. Together we can celebrate the animals who teach us what it truly means to love without condition. Thank you for watching. Thank you for caring. And thank you for believing that the wolves are finally coming home.